Hey, Mackenzie.
Hey, Lemar.
It's a Friday evening for us. Not our usual record day. Little different energy in here today.
Definitely, definitely. We're both kind of salty though, so I think it'll work out.
Yeah, we're gonna cover this movie today called The Strangers, and I just want to forewarn now. I doubt we're gonna do a spoiler-free thing today. So if for some reason you've never seen The Strangers, I would recommend that you just hit pause, go watch it if you want to. But I want to
Or you
give
could
some
not.
minor, or you could just not. Yeah, we'll get into the details of that, but I don't want to like give anything away in the opening here. So this is your last chance. But this is a movie where it's this couple who's in a messy situation to begin with,
hmm
and then these terrible things start happening, and it's just 90 minutes of them being sort of like tormented, and it's messy and all
Yeah.
these different things. So it's a very dark film. And with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, what was your messiest breakup?
Oh my God. Oh, what a fucking segue. What was my messiest breakup? Damn. All right. Let's go. I need another drink.
That was
My
fast.
yeah, I know. My messiest breakup. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to not say my marriage. Like, how much messier can it get when your marriage falls apart?
Mm,
It actually did, I will say, just like asterisk. It ended amicably. But the getting there was not easy. It was very messy. It was like getting to the point where we could like decide to separate and divorce and like pull the
mm,
trigger. That was really hard, and this person was like very difficult for me to communicate with for a number of reasons. And at least for me personally, when I can't communicate well, I feel helpless. Like if I can't,
yeah.
I just like lash out. So I definitely like lashed out, and we were just not kind to one another during that time. It was a two-way street, not being nice, pretty brutal. But I think the good thing was that by the end of it, we were both like, yeah, this is done. This is good. This is a good decision.
Yeah, like the mature thing to do.
Yeah,
Like
it's time. It's
now
time.
I know you got married in Vegas. Did the divorce also happen in Vegas? Was it only like a couple days apart? You were like, you
I
know what?
wish
I'm
it was
starting to
in
realize this
Vegas.
isn't gonna work.
That would have been a really fun breakup, Like, let's
Uh,
just go party it out in Vegas. No, it wasn't that great. It was boring, and I was alone in a courthouse. So, cheers
mm,
to that. But
cheers to that.
it was a good thing. I say that I'm kidding and I'm not kidding. It was a
Hmm.
good cheers because it was the right decision. So, anyways, how about you?
I'm not going to be able to come anywhere close to that. I feel like none of my breakups have had much of a story on my end, at least. I'm sure there's some
I
people
was
out
gonna
there
say,
that
let's
hate my
interview.
guts,
Guys,
but
call in. Feel free to tell us what was Lamar's messiest
so
breakup.
that was the route I was going to take. Was yeah, there's been some fights, but I haven't had any really big stories to come out of a
Yeah.
breakup or anything. So I think instead I'm just going to take this opportunity as a blanket apology to everyone that's ever had to date me, including the person currently dating me. I know
Oh,
I can be a
poor
pain, so
Janelle.
like
God.
I'm not going to top what you said, Mackenzie. I'm not even going to try.
Well, it is. I mean, divorces suck. They're pretty hard to top, but everybody has breakup stories. And yeah, I will also apologize to the people who had to date me. It can't, we broke to all of them under both circumstances. We broke up for a reason. They probably wanted to get away. So, cheers to that.
Nice. All right, let's critique the shit out of this movie.
Let's fucking rage. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lamar.
And spooky season is upon us. And if you couldn't
Whoop, whoop.
tell, I am fucking manifesting. I got my skull
Skull
sweater on.
sweater. It looks very
Yeah.
comfy.
It is so cozy, except for the fact that it's 94 degrees outside. And so I've had to like crank my AC because I refuse to deal with this fake fall bullshit. I am manifesting fall. So anyway,
Yeah. Texas
what
will do that. It'll lead you right along, make you think it's gonna be nice, it's gonna be
does it
cozy
every year?
outside. It's not.
It's a little bitch. But
Yeah.
the nice thing about spooky season is that we get to watch spooky movies.
Yeah.
So we are doing our spooky movie month. This week we are continuing with The Strangers, which was a fan request. And I am in a fight with this person now, but we'll get there.
I know you brought this
I
to
know.
me
I
and
know.
said, "Hey, my
I
friend
know.
listed out a few of these different titles. I've
Yep.
never seen this one." And I
Yep.
think my response was like, "It's
Yeah.
fine. Like Strangers is all right. It's not
Because you
great.
had
It's
seen
not
it, right?
terrible." Like
I had
I
not
had
seen
seen
it.
it. I had seen it once before, probably like a couple years after it came out.
Okay. Well, all that to say, I had no idea what I was getting into. I was told it was underrated. I had a few recommendations, and I should say this one had gotten recommended twice. This
Okay.
one person was very adamant, but this one had gotten recommended twice, which is why I brought it up. So I was like, okay, whatever. Anyway, we have feelings about it. And to get us through, we will be drinking quite a bit. So, what are we drinking? You named this one, and I love it. Take it away.
Well, to be fair, like I think the majority of Skylar and my relationship at this point is just texting each other drink ideas.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
it's just
That's healthy.
he and I
you
sending
know?
little cute ideas back and forth. We don't really ask how each other's day went or anything.
No.
It's just
No preamble. What's the cocktail
Yeah.
tonight, bitch?
pretty much. So, Skylar, you can find at Craft World with no vowels. So give him a follow to, track all these delicious recipes so you can make them at home. But if you want to try and jot this down, it's 2 ounces of whiskey, 0.75 ounces of lemon juice, half an ounce of simple syrup, 0.25 ounces of ginger liqueur, and then you're going to shake and strain that sucker into a glass and top it off with half an ounce to 0.75 ounces of bubbles, whether that's Prosecco or champagne. I had to kind of manifest something over here with club soda and simple. I have no idea if this is what Skylar wanted us to taste today, but it's pretty good.
I had all the things, and I also had mixologist recommended Japanese whiskey. So I will plug that if you have Japanese whiskey or you are into Japanese whiskey, that was the recommended whiskey for
Do you know what brand you're using?
I'm using Suntory. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one I've heard
Toki. Yeah.
before, but that's the only
I
I think
have
that's the only one I could
several,
name.
but I think this one's good for cocktails. A couple of the other ones I have are a little too nice for a cocktail, so I was like not about to mix it in there. But yeah.
It's got like a good color to it. It's kind of you had mentioned it kind of as like a play on a French 75. It's got the bubbles in there. It goes down smooth.
Yeah.
And then the name of this one is Stranger Danger, which is a very cute name for a drink for this movie.
I mean, yeah, for about this movie, it kind of vibes with the cocktail, though, I will say. So cheers to that. Good name, by the way.
Thanks.
That's the best part of the cocktail bit, at least for me. I mean, besides drinking it, but
coming up with the
names for sure. So
yeah, we had a few other options. We thought about going with Doll Face or
Doll Face.
Yeah, Doll Face would have been a good one. I feel like there was another one we thought of, but I can't recall it now. Skylar just wanted to make fun of Liv Tyler's character for
100%. He hates her so much.
Goofy she is in this.
It gets dark. Yeah. He was not happy. We're not huge fans. So if you didn't hear Lemar say earlier, we're not gonna do a spoiler free for a number of reasons. One, I don't know how many of you will go watch it, even if you haven't seen it. Number two, it's a little bit older, 2008. So hopefully you've seen it by now. And if not, can't say I recommend. But we'll do some basics and we will blow through this thing, hopefully.
It's going to be easier this time. I was just listening to, not that I always listen to our episodes, but it had been a while since I listened to one. Yeah. And also, if I'm being honest, I didn't listen to the entire Booksmart episode before I uploaded it. So I was like, well, I made all the major cuts that we had marked, but I actually sat down and listened. I was like, I hope I didn't miss anything. It took us 45 minutes to get through the basics on that one because we were taught this one easy peasy. We got 5 cast members and 3 of them barely talk. So we're going to do great.
I love that you just outed yourself on the pod, that you did not fully edit the pod. That's my favorite part. I have to go add the after effects just for a little behind the scenes moment for y'all, mostly because I don't want to talk about this movie.
I'm not Kanye West. I'm not listening to my own songs thinking this is the shit.
I'm with you on the not listening, but you also
I guess I'm also not producing.
You're not producing it. I don't listen to it either, but I definitely edit it.
At this point, to save time, it's I get the marks and then I also search the word mark. And if we didn't say mark or you didn't mark it physically, there's a good chance. Man. Yeah, our listeners are suffering.
You're gonna hear another ep. We have a guest coming this month, maybe more than one, TBD. But we had a guest who came where I warned them of that. I said, if you don't tell Lemar to edit something that you flubbed, he will not edit it out. And I have to remember to go go edit my own shit out, which I often forget as well. So I just give us the music, you know what I mean? The music and the audio is my jam. We're just hoping for the best, guys. But anyways,
I'm gonna try.
all that to say, I totally agree with you. We take way too long to get through the basics sometimes, especially when we like everyone in it, or it has a really good cast. But on the upside, only a handful of people in this one, and also not a lot to say about them. So yeah, we will try to blow through this. This is The Strangers, 2008. I say that because there's like a Strangers movie, Strangers series. There's a Stranger movie. This is The Strangers, 2008. And the IMDb rating for this one is 6.1 out of 10, which I was shooketh by. And there's critics on Rotten Tomatoes at 49% and 48% audiences, which I think vibes a little bit more personally.
Yeah, I think for the time that it came out, it's something new for that time period. But at this point, the home invasion genre has been done to death. Like I think it's been dead
Maybe
for
that's
5 or
why
6
I don't
years.
like it.
But yeah, I think you've seen better instances of it. This is not my kind. I do not love bleak horror where there's just no hope and it's just slowly watching. Like it's one thing to watch a slasher where there's a campiness to it. Yeah, people are dying, but it is kind of corny and hokey, as opposed to watching something like this. But if this is your genre of movie, I would recommend you watch Eden Lake. I think that's a better version of this. It's more fucked up, I think, but it's got Magneto. What's his name?
Ian McKellen.
The other one. Young Magneto.
Oh, Fassbender. Michael Fassbender. It's got Michael Fassbender in it. It's got the lady that's in Yellowstone as the main lady in that now. But that is another one where it's not really home invasion, but it's 2 characters being stalked by a group. And it's bleak. It's not my kind of movie, but it's a better version of The Strangers. Okay. Well, all right. Well, solid redirect. I'll have to try to give that one a shot after I've recovered from this one. I don't know
that you should. I'm not recommending it to everybody, but
I will say I am surprised that you didn't like it, but that makes more sense with the context that you gave as far as like, I don't love that there's no hope, because y'all, there ain't no hope in this one. There's no hope. Nothing good happens. So writer director is Brian Bertino. I haven't seen any of his other stuff, so I can't tell you if this is just his vibe or what, but he has done things like The Mockingbird, The Monster, The Dark and the Wicked. And as far as writing, he's done pretty much just Strangers sequels as well as this one. So I think he has a type. He has a style.
I give him some credit because it seems like he tends to always write and direct his films, which, props to somebody who's willing to do those things. But I don't think he has a single thing rated over like a 6 on IMDb. So it's, he's always between a 5 and a 6, but apparently he's got some divisive movies, which I think we're going to agree with today.
Alrighty, good to know. So major cast crew, like we said, super small. We're starting off with one Liv Tyler, who plays Kristen. She is probably, you know her from a number of things, but very well known for Lord of the Rings, Empire Records, That Thing You Do, which we've talked about on the podcast as being an excellent movie.
Hell yeah.
Armageddon. And also she did a kind of a deep cut that I forgot that she was in, and I actually really liked, but I haven't seen it in a long time. So.
Aerosmith music videos? You really liked those?
I love those. It's my favorite thing. I just sit at home on Friday night and watch Aerosmith music videos.
Talk about a moment in time when you've got Liv Tyler and Alicia Silverstone from Clueless in like multiple Aerosmith music videos together. What a time to be alive.
What a time. Exactly. No, she was in this movie called Reign Over Me that I really liked, and it was surprising because it was an Adam Sandler, wait for it, dramatic turn, and I liked it even with Adam Sandler in it. I liked it.
And you're not a big Adam Sandler person, we know that.
I am not, and I thought it was good. Now don't hold me to that too hard. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember thinking it was really good. So
is it rain like rain falling, or rain like be a king over me?
Rain as in rain be a king over me. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we go to Mr. Scott Speedman, her wingman, and really like just over the top nice husband to an absurd degree, James. And then he's been
wait.
What?
He is not her husband.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
You missed like the biggest plot development.
That is actually a big difference. Yeah, we'll get there. He's definitely not her husband. He's never gonna be her husband. It's a whole thing. He wants to be, though. He wants to be.
He's trying his best.
He's trying his best. But he's been in, like, you know, a bunch of the underworlds. And he was also in this like rom-com thing that did pretty well called Barefoot. I remembered him, like, I think I first saw him in Felicity way back in the day. I didn't even really watch that show, but I know he was in that. And then he was recently in You, that like other creepy series on Netflix.
Oh, I still haven't picked that one up, but it's on my queue for sure.
Good, but fucked up. Like, if you just accept that it's gonna be fucked up, it's enjoyable, but it's yeah.
I'm glad to hear that he's getting work, because I feel like there was a 4-year span where Scott Speedman was in a ton of shit. He wasn't going to be, I don't think, the leading man for decades, but he was getting a ton of work, and then it seemed like he just kind of dropped off. So
and he was decent. He's always been decent. So I mean, like, I don't think he's an incredible actor, but I think he's a decent actor, and I was kind of surprised to see him fall off the face of the earth for a little bit. But he's back-ish. I don't know. I haven't seen him in anything else. So another one, Gemma. I think it's Gemma. I feel
Can we just cover these three together? I just wrote them down of, what is it? Kip Weeks, Laura Margolis, and Gemma Ward.
They play the strangers, referenced as Dollface, the Man in the Mask, the Pinup Girl. I think you can tell who is who, hopefully. None of them have been in a lot of
They weren't even in the sequel. That's what I was like. They
don't even have their faces present, and they're still like, nah, we don't need to.
You know what? We're gonna go a different direction.
So fucking harsh.
Like, I don't know who they pissed off. I thought they were fine in this. Like, all you need is some body language, and I thought they were good.
Yeah, I mean, they turn their heads creepily enough. I mean, I don't know, whatever.
The old Michael Myers head tilt.
The Man in the Iron Mask. That's a different movie, guys. That is actually better than this one. But the Man in the Mask says 0 words. So I mean, how hard could it be to plug him into the next one? That's what I want to know. But I will say, I won't go into all their credits because I was very much reaching to reference their credits anyway. But there was one that was newer, and that was the Kip Weeks guy, and it was Spencer Confidential. So that's like one that people might know. That's that newer one. I think it's on Netflix. But I will say I could not get through it. That doesn't mean that it's not good. Every time I tried to watch it, I couldn't finish it. So I don't know, but it's a newer one. It's got like Mark Wahlberg in it, I think. So people might like that one. I don't know.
Okay. Is he like a recurring character, or is he only in like an episode?
No, that's a movie. It's a movie. So
is he a recurring character, or is he only in one
Valid question. I have no idea. We'll see if there's a sequel. We'll find out. But I think he's like one of the muscle guys in that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And then another one that I thought was funny that they referenced is Dirty Sexy Money, which is an older TV series that was like Succession meets Gossip Girl, and it was like not well timed. I think if you released that show now, people would love it. I remember back then liking it and nobody agreeing with me. But it was like it had Donald Sutherland in it, who can do literally anything, and he was the patriarch and all of that. So anyway, I don't know, might be worth a go back and watch that one and see where she is.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get through this plot summary real quick.
Wait, you're skipping like the most important person in this. It's probably the most, well, I guess Liv Tyler's probably the most famous, but I would argue that Glenn Howerton, in like his little 3 minutes of screen time in this from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fame, and he's just sort of the douchey
he plays
drunk
Mike.
Friend.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good friend, but
he's a good friend.
On the phone, he
shows up at fucking 5 a.m. or whatever it is to get his friend. Like, he a good friend. But yeah, he's here for 3 seconds.
Some payback
basically.
He gets.
I know.
Friend.
The karma. Oh my God. It was, anyway, yes, he's probably.
Don't drive drunk, kids. That's what happens. If you could learn, if you could get one takeaway from this film, that should be it.
I think the other takeaway here is that people who don't know how to use guns safely and cautiously should not assemble a gun in the dark and shoot at people that they can't see clearly. Like, there are a lot of problems with this. Anyway, plot summary. James Hoyt and Kristen McKay visit an isolated vacation home to enjoy some time together. However, they're in for a rude surprise when 3 masked assailants make the stay a nightmare.
Oh, geez.
For all of us. for all of us.
I wrote down, I barely have, compared to other movies we've done, I barely have any notes for this. And
I have pages and pages and pages normally. I have
Mhm.
1.5 pages, and they're bullets. Keep in mind, these are bullets.
Yeah,
They're long. It's not like a fucking novel. Yeah, I have 1.5
same.
pages.
I wrote down, and I think I attribute it to my theory is that movie is one scary thought, which is everyone remembers from this film that last quote of "Why are you doing this to us? Because you were home." That's
Yeah.
the most like the thing from this film that has stuck around for the longest that sticks in people's brains. This film is that one scary thought stretched to 90 minutes, and it just is not that entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hence, no notes.
Yeah, we have very few notes. I could just read you my notes and we could be done. Um, yeah, I will say it made an okay amount of money. Like for
Okay.
being as terrible as it is. It's a $9 million budget and it made 82.5 million, which is like, I don't know, decent, not bad. Somebody, I think it was a producer or it might even have been the director, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was interviewed saying that it didn't make as much as they expected it would. And I was like, really?
Mm.
They should be very content with that amount of money, in my view. That's
Right.
plenty. That's
For
plenty.
how little they spent, like you're
Yeah.
doing great.
You're
Yeah.
doing great. It's not a lot. So, I mean, I guess we don't really have to get into our ratings now. We normally do our spoiler-free rating here, but we're not going to do spoiler-free time. And you can already tell we're not huge fans. So let's get into it.
I want to like, I'm not going to give this, at the end of the day, I'm not going to give this like a 2. I don't think it's an abysmal film. It just turns out that it's an average film that is also not for me, like not my
Yeah.
personal enjoyment. Again,
Also,
I'll keep
what
saying
would be a 2? I just like
something that you like just cannot believe. There was a horror movie. We Summon the Darkness. It came out maybe like 5 years ago. It's got Alexandria Daddario from like Percy Jackson and True Detective. She's in it and they put money into it, and it is just what
really
the
bad.
fuck did I just watch? Bad, like nonsensical. Bad special effects. Nonsense.
I haven't seen it in years, but I feel like the only thing that comes to mind, I'm sure there are others, but the only thing that comes to mind is this movie called The Core, which was,
okay.
It actually has some okay actors in it. I want to say like Aaron Eckhart or whatever was in it. He's like pretty decent, but it was one of those like, I don't know how else to describe this genre, so don't come for me, people, but it was a Christian Armageddon film.
Oh,
you
boy.
know what I mean? Like
Yes, yeah.
it was aggressively
that is a genre I get into, yeah.
And it was so bad. I just remember it being so bad. So yeah, maybe the only thing I can think of that would maybe be a 2. So
okay.
Yeah, this isn't a 2, guys. It's not a 10, but it's not a 2. And yeah, it's
and
just
like I said, for the time it came out, and historians correct me, but I don't remember a movie similar to I mean, there was like Panic Room, which was more of an action-y thriller as opposed to a horror movie. But aside from that, in like the decade or two prior to this coming out, I don't remember a super similar horror film of this type. So again, good on them for trying something different. And obviously it did connect with some folks. Some people are going to be more freaked out by this, but I just don't think it's a very engaging watch, especially the second time around. I was like, I know how this ends. The rest of this is just kind of like dragging its feet to get to the ending at this point.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I would say the only thing that I think is scary about this that it does well is some of the like anticipatory moments of just like
there's some good tension.
You're just there's just tension. You're waiting for a couple things to happen. I mean, they're gonna come, but they do an okay job of making those moments feel tense. So I'll give them that. They're like decent at those moments. But yeah, on the whole, it's not particularly scary. And I kind of wanted to be scared, I kind of wanted to be like freaked out, and it just wasn't that much. I will say, starting at the top, this is presented to us as being based on a true story.
And you know that because it has a voiceover that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's a terrible voiceover. Even the like title card that says that is not gorgeously done, not
like
great
yeah,
graphics,
it's like it
but
looks like it's like a student film, and that
yeah.
voice, it sounded like the Law and Order intro, and I wanted to be like, in the world of home invasion, there are two types of people. It was just not a great mood setter.
No, it wasn't. It reminds me of those like early 90s movie trailers, like before they were good and they had gotten down the
Yeah,
like
yeah.
voiceover voice that was solid. This was like one of those early attempts and it was not great. But yeah, it's the funny part about that is that it makes you, or at least it makes me immediately Google it. Right. I'm like, okay, so what fucking case is this based
Was
off? I
this
want
real?
details, right? And it's not really. It was inspired by an almost break-in at the director's home when he was a kid. So him and his sister were home alone as children, and somebody came and knocked on the door and asked if so and so was home, and that person didn't live there, and they told him no, like that person doesn't live here, and they left. No harm, no foul. They later found out that those people were doing that to see who was home, and if somebody wasn't home, they broke into the house and burgled the
Huh.
house. So
Well, he got the story all wrong in this case. He did like the
I
opposite
know.
because they are home. It should have been like
I
they
know.
just knock on an empty home and it's just a movie about them robbing. That
I
would have been
know.
much more entertaining.
He just flipped it. He's like, no, this is boring.
It
Let
would be
me.
like watching a movie about the wet bandits from Home Alone with no resistance. It's just an hour and a half of them robbing homes. It's like,
Mm-hmm,
wow,
mm-hmm.
it's kind of like the opposite of like Pawn Stars or whatever. Like it's just them going around and
Yeah.
grabbing valuables.
Yeah. Just grab
I'd
some
watch that.
valuables. No big deal. I mean, I feel like it would be at least entertaining, especially if you like, let's combine like Pawn Stars offerings to what we just stole from the house. And, the best I can do is steal this and sell it for $200. Anyway, I feel like that'd be more entertaining than this was. But yeah, it was not really based off of that. What's funny is that somebody said that this was actually more similar to these other murders that did occur that were kind of like this. And it was like the Kitty Kills murders or something really cheesy like that. I can't remember the name. I didn't care enough to deep dive on that for y'all. Sorry. But they asked Brian that and he was like, I don't even know if any idea what you're talking about. I'm like, at this point, dude, just take the inspiration of like, yes, I referenced this really interesting murder case, like just to make my movie sound more
Well, but it's
interesting.
probably one of those situations, like, I think any movie, like a murder, if it's based in somewhat of reality, you can find a real thing that happened that's similar to it.
Yeah.
And even if he did see that and get inspiration, he's not going to come out and say it because then he might owe money to like the families of the people. Like, I feel like there's probably lines being crossed there if you did that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he did also reference, I will say, he read Helter Skelter around this time. And so like kind of
The Beatles song?
Yes, exactly. That was directly related to a murder case. Mm-hmm. No, it was the Helter Skelter of, the Manson family Tate murder situation, which is legitimately pretty creepy. And there isn't great motive for, kind of like here, we don't get a lot of great murder. So he had just read that. So I feel like that ekes into this as well.
That's fair.
But you get this opening, which I don't know. I'm trying to find things to give this movie credit for. So I guess I'll reach here where you get cut into this middle of a scenario. Like you get dropped into the middle of some shit has just gone down with Kristen.
Are you talking about like, okay, so you're talking about when we see, I thought you were going to address, because before we get there, if you don't mind, like I actually enjoy the trope of showing the crime scene before we see what actually happened at the crime scene. Because coming out of that stupid voiceover and the shots of all the houses, I was like, if you're trying to show isolation, why are you showing all these other homes in the intro? And I guess maybe it's to be like, it could be any home. It could be your home that gets this happens.
Those were references to other horror movie homes. I will say that.
Why though?
I don't know, because he was fucking reaching. I mean, I had to Google that to find that out. It's not like
what does that have to do
a lot
with
of work.
This movie? Like, okay,
he's like, I'm like all these other horror movies, and your soup's not.
Yes, like it's like, oh, these are all normal homes that bad things happen. I get that, but it's like the goal of this is to show isolation,
right?
That they are by themselves in the middle of this endeavor.
Only other thing maybe is like maybe they're showing how far out you have to go. Maybe they're trying to show how far out you have to go to get to this house. But I agree with you. I don't think that's super clear. I think it's all a reach.
It's mishmash, but I do like that opening crime scene and seeing the kids at the doorway and you hear the 911 call. I think that's kind of cool to know. And we don't know at this point. All we hear is there's a lot of blood and a couple other minor details.
Mm-hmm.
But upon rewatch, I was like thinking, when I watched this the first time, and I think nowadays, even if you were to watch this for the first time, you might think, oh, that's just a misdirect. Like, it turns out it's actually the bad guys that are dead in there, and it's the good
Mm-hmm.
guys that have won and killed the killers. So I thought that was a cool little thing. But again, that's only if you've seen it recently for the first time, because nowadays we're accustomed to the anti-twist kind of.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was a good setup. It's not a bad setup. It didn't stand out to me. I mean, it's an interesting setup and framework. I'll grant you that. What I did like is, when you cut into, like I said, this moment with her and him, where clearly some shit has gone down. They are it takes you kind of a second to connect the dots, which I think is good. Like, you kind of can't tell if they just got into a fight or, or whatever. And it turns out that he has proposed to her and he has shut that shit down.
at someone else's wedding, which
At someone
people love that.
else's
Yeah.
wedding. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, number one, PSA, guys, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't propose to someone at someone else's wedding. It's their day. Like, don't impede on that. And if you, for whatever reason, think you should or that you could, get clearance first. Check with them. Make sure. Okay, I'm done ranting. I've seen this happen before and it never goes well. It never goes well.
Yeah.
But
I did think that it was like smart on the part of the writer director in this to weave in this story of the fight
yeah,
and them breaking up, making up, breaking up again, because by doing that, you get the extra. It's a good way for him to stretch the film out to 90 minutes, because without that
yeah.
plot, if it's just a happy couple showing up at a house,
Oh, yeah.
you can't do these cutaways. You can't have him leave and then come back again. Like,
Yeah.
it was very smart on his part, but again, it's just not very engaging to watch.
Well, and it's like all just dragging. I have that note so many times in my notes of this is dragging. And I mean, at least when she shows up smoking and crying, you're like, well, this is a great sign. Like, now I'm intrigued,
Yeah.
And then you find out, obviously, that this proposal has gone awry and this is going to be an interesting dynamic. It's also super late and dark, and they're in this remote area, and he's calling his friend, which for a quick sec I thought was the groom. Like, that he was
Yeah,
calling.
I was like, I know you're drunk, but
Yeah, and I'm like, are you calling the groom to pick you
Yeah.
up on his wedding night? Absolutely not. But I guess he's maybe a groomsman or whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense that it would be him. But for a second there, I was very confused. And that whole interaction is, again, same thing. It's like, it's very drawn out. I guess supposed to make you feel the tension and how shitty the situation is.
In that situation, who did you relate more to in their coping mechanisms? Because Liv Tyler's character goes and takes a hot bath at like 11 o'clock at night, and then Scott Speedman's character decides to just eat a whole tub of ice cream. So which way
See,
do you
I
fall?
transparently do not connect with either one of those, but if I had to pick one, it would be the tub of ice cream for sure.
Okay, not the tub of hot water.
No. I'm not
Okay.
that kind of tub person. I don't like baths. I know it's an atrocity. People don't come for me, but I don't like baths.
I'm a big bath guy. Big bath
Skylar's a big bath guy.
Yeah,
My ex
once
was a
a
big
week,
bath
once every
guy.
couple weeks,
Everybody's
like,
a big bath guy, but me, apparently.
But I wouldn't do it super late at night after a fight. That's not a good way to
No.
cool down and like relax.
Right. You're not going to relax. And also, she's not even really laying in the bath. She's like curled up and all, I don't know, whiny about it. Whatever. It's
Yeah.
her own fault. She turned it down. What are you crying about? I don't understand. Anyway, I do love, I said this, while we were watching it. He gets the tub of ice cream and it's like the big Bluebell, which respect, excellent choice.
Yeah.
And he gets the big spoon and he like does the circle around the outside of it. And I was like, this is the most satisfying spoonful of any tub of ice cream. Like, I'm here for this. And I was like, oh, look, it's gallon of ice cream o'clock. Let's do this.
Again, it's a directorial choice. He was like,
Yeah.
if I just have him eat a little cup of it, that we can add 20
It's not the
seconds
same.
to this film. If I have him loop the ounce, it's
Yeah.
all a delay scheme.
100%. And do you know what I was most anxious about during this whole fucking break-in? The
Was
ice
somebody
cream
gonna
melting.
put the ice cream away? Yeah, I was like,
Yes.
these are the real psychopaths. They just
Right.
leave the ice
Why are
cream
you
out. I
fucking
wanted the
wasting-
killers to like eat some of it.
Yes, this is good Bluebell. Don't do this. This is disrespectful. Like, put that in
Yeah.
the freezer. Yeah, I was very anxious about that and very preoccupied with it. And I was like, fuck the fire smoke detector moving around. Put the ice cream in the freezer. Yeah. So they have this whole interaction, and there were so many things that felt so unrealistic about it. He feels unrealistic as a person. He is handling this so well. I mean, he's eating ice cream, which is a perfectly realistic and reasonable coping mechanism, but he's being so gentle with her and gracious toward her, and is going to like give her the car and have his friend pick him up, and they're going to just take space, and he's going to leave her alone and let her have the room. And he's already done all this, stuff to make the house nice and to do this proposal and make it all romantic or whatever. And he's just like, it's cool. And he hugs her to make her seemingly feel better before she takes a bath, and is like, it's okay, whatever. He's like comforting her, and she just shot him down. And
Yeah.
it's
That
a
whole sequence is a little
very weird energy.
strange, and like then they sleep together, which is like after a
But
fight
they
like
also
that.
don't. They like start to hook up. They start to try to have sex, and then they don't because they get interrupted. Like, it's
Oh, well, maybe I just honestly, maybe I was taking notes at this point because I could have sworn that it
yeah.
cut from like they started hooking up and then it cut and you're assuming that they had sex. They didn't.
You know
Okay.
why he almost had sex with her? Because she was like, "Hey, I just rejected your proposal, and I don't want to like not be together, but I still want you to want me. So let me put on the cutest nightgown that literally looks like a fucking gown that I can possibly find, and come into the room and like grab your hand and apologize and be my like breathy, whiny
Uh,
Liv Tyler voice." And I was like, this is so unrealistic. No one dresses like this. You wouldn't act this way. And then she's like, well, we could just, sleep together. I just don't want to marry you. And they start hooking up, or trying to, and somebody knocks on the door in a really loud, abrupt way.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll take the L on that one. I just was miswatching the movie. So that's when Dollface first shows up
That's
and
when,
is asking about
yes.
Tamara.
When she's like,
Tamara.
hey, is Tamara like, and that, I'll give her this credit. She is being creepy because she is knocking on the door at 4 a.m. and doesn't explain herself at all. They open the door,
Mm-hmm.
and she just stands there, and they're like, hello. And she's like, hello, is Tamara here? Like, it's a solid beat. You're just standing there
It's
waiting for her to say
yeah.
something.
It's a smart move on the part of the killers too to send, it would be very different if like a male figure was knocking at it, but because it's
Right.
this young girl, even Scott Speedman's character is like, should I go check on her? Like
Yeah.
that's smart writing. I also like the little touch of you can't see her face because it's
Because
hidden
he's
by
turned off the
shadows.
light.
And then when she leaves, he retightened like she had unscrewed the bulb. I thought
Right.
that was a really cool thing. They don't call attention to it, but I like
But
that.
also, why does that not immediately make you suspicious of this person? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
the threads of a light bulb don't come untwisted easily. You know what I mean?
Well, I
Like,
mean,
he
it's
had to
not their
retighten
house
them.
though, so he doesn't
No,
know
I
that the light
know. But I
doesn't
just
work,
mean, like, he twisted it in almost instinctively, right? Of like, let me just twist it in and maybe
Yeah.
it'll turn on.
Actually, maybe that's bad writing then. You might be
No, no,
right,
I think it's a
honestly.
really good way to shoot the scene, but it makes me wonder, why does
Why
he
he wasn't
immediately
more
go
weirded
to
out.
that? And
Yeah.
then why does it not then make him immediately wary of her? Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
any of them. Right. And like shutting the door and locking it and all the things. And of course, we have the one door ever to not have a peephole or a window anywhere in the vicinity. So we're just opening doors at 4 a.m. So I was just like, this is fucking stupid. You would not open the store this late. And then if you did, you wouldn't then proceed to go outside again. He's like, I left my phone in the car and I need to go grab this. And, it's just like all these really overt hurdles that feel like a reach. They feel
Yeah.
like too much for me.
They I give them some credit because in like 50% of the scenarios in this film, the characters are somewhat logical, which I appreciate in a horror movie to see somebody not make. It's not one of those ones where you're like
When
looking
were
at the
they
TV and like,
logical?
why would you do this? Why would you do this? They try to use the car to just get away. I think that's pretty of like, hey, we're not going to hunker down in this house.
Yeah,
There
but
was
the
something
tires are already
specific.
slashed at that point, and
Yeah, but
that's
you can
like,
stay. It's just like, fuck it. We'll just drive on
no,
the,
I know, but I just
yeah.
mean it feels like it's very late in the game before they make that decision. I don't feel like they jump to logic quickly here.
I mean, I like that, as soon as I think it's the knock, whatever the second or third set of knocks when Liv is there by herself, she immediately grabs a knife. I'm like, okay. So usually in horror movies, they play a little dumber, but she's like, yeah, I'm going to defend myself. I like that she talks about, didn't you say your dad has a gun? Like they try to
Mm-hmm.
again arm themselves. I do think the strategy, despite him being a terrible gun owner or a
Oh my
non-gun
God.
owner, of hey, we're gonna sit in a corner of
Yeah.
this and wait for them to come. We're gonna shoot him. I thought that made a lot of sense
That's
until,
good positioning. I'll give him that. He
yeah,
just needs to be better about like, who am I shooting at? But yeah. But
yeah.
you know what I think is the most logical thing that this bitch did? She was
What?
like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of this dress that I'm wearing and I'm going to put on some
Yes.
jeans and a flannel and I'm going to deal with this shit. And I was like, thank God we're not going to have to watch this woman, being attacked in a gown for 2 hours, because I was not looking forward to that. So I was very appreciative of that choice.
Yeah, I do agree that the wardrobe choice was a necessity. I don't think the film would have played the same if she was running around in a nightie the whole time. I wanted to say, like, as far as the horror in this goes, because it's, like you said, it's kind of, the thought of it is unsettling. I think the creepiest thing about this, even though there's not a lot of scares that aren't super unpredictable, I think the creepiest part is having the killer hiding in the house with you.
Yeah,
Like, it's one
totally.
thing to know there are stalkers outside of the house trying to
Right, but
get
that they
in,
can get in.
but those multiple shots of them like in the background and just fucking with, I wrote down, this film is just basically 90 minutes of these killers edging themselves. Like they
Yes.
literally could stab them at any
Exactly.
time, and they're like, no, I'm just
They're
gonna
like,
let you go
"This
because
is
it'll be
more
more fun.
fun."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I agree, And I don't think any of those. I do think that that's definitely creepy, and it's the creepier part of this. But none of it was. I mean, for better or worse, if you like jump scares, then I guess maybe you didn't like this. But I don't particularly. I think jump scares are kind of cheap,
Yeah.
personally, and I like that none of those appearances felt like jump scares. You know what I
I
mean?
like those. There are a couple in here that I didn't. The stupid ass, like, I'm gonna hide in the closet and we're gonna
Oh
have
God,
this
I
2 minutes
know
of
that
tension of the
fucking
guy wandering
yes.
around, and then after he goes away, the mask is gonna jump. That was so
And
fucking
also, you
stupid.
can see her so clearly with the way they had those slats, and then from the other angle,
Mm-hmm.
the slats are so much higher. Like, have you ever hidden one of those closets before? Like in real
I
life?
can't say I have.
I
I don't
totally
think so.
have. I totally have. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work that way. Like, you cannot see that clearly going out.
What were you hiding from, Mackenzie?
Some of us played hide and seek in our wholesome childhoods, Lamar. Like, it's
That
not that
sounds fun.
weird.
I'd love to hear the rules of that. It sounds like a two-step process. Okay.
Yes, but you have to do it in an old house with a pantry door that has the slats on it, or it doesn't count.
What's the other? Oh, the one where she sees, I think she opens the door, or no, we see him inside the house, but then she goes to open the curtain, and then the
And then
second
it's
time
at
she
the
opens the curtain, he's there, and it's like,
yeah.
these jump scares are just so unearned.
I agree. Those I didn't like. I liked the ones where like he's in the shadow in the back at the
When he just slowly like saunters in and then is
right.
watching her and then drops back. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. I think that's cool. Like, I think that's legitimately creepy, you know? And it kind of, I don't know, alludes to that feeling that you have and that she has in those shots of, I can feel someone is here. I can feel
Mm-hmm.
someone looking at me, but you can't quite see them for whatever reason. But I do have in my notes multiple times, like, all of you have really shitty peripheral vision.
Peripheral vision.
Like,
I was like, he's really taking a risk here.
where is the periph, guys? Like, they're right there. You could totally see him. Like, I can see this book in this corner, right? Like, you cannot tell me that you don't see this guy in the background. So I thought that was a little bit of a reach, but I do like, simple, subtle things like the picking up the smoke detector and it being on the chair, just has moved slightly. And I will say that I do and I don't like, because I hate the premise that women are crazy. Fundamentally, I think that's terrible. But I like that the things that have happened have been subtle enough that James, doesn't quite believe Kristen when he gets back, of like that someone's in the house at first. And it takes him a little bit. I think it takes him a little bit too long to figure it out.
The only thing I wish they had done, because I do agree for the most part that it's like, okay, we've had a rough night. There's a lot going on. And he's not calling her crazy. Like, he is hesitant. And it's also that machismo factor of like, I'm a guy, I'm safe from the world, so I'll go take a look around and find whatever's troubling you. Well, and also he's probably been drinking too, which we know they chugged that bottle of champagne.
That's that mediocre white man confidence of like, nothing can get me, it's fine.
It's the best. I love it, honestly. So come at me, world. But
I would love some. Feel free to transfer it. We would like to share.
But the one thing that I would change about that is she's bleeding from her hand. Like, she's been cut, and I think it's the knife that cut her own knife that cut. But if you walk in and this woman who, I mean, we don't know how long they've been dating, I don't think. We know that long enough for him to propose. And
My
if
guess is a
she's
year-ish at least, and he should know
because
better by
James
now.
is that kind of guy,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So like, but you go in and your person who you've been dating for a year plus has blood running down their hand, and they say there's somebody in. You
And
don't
they're
go, hey, take
crying,
it
and they're
easy. It's
scared. Yeah,
yeah, it's one thing if it's like
yeah,
somebody knocked on the door, I'm freaked out, and you go, maybe it
right.
was just the wind. It's another thing
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
are bleeding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. That whole scene, I literally rewound that scene 3 times. The fucking lamp situation. I was
Hmm.
like, what did she just do with the
I
lamp?
didn't
I don't
understand that at all.
understand.
She was like
How
very upset about breaking the lamp,
how did
though.
she cut herself on this lamp? What is she doing? What was she trying to do? I have and had so many questions about that scene, but I totally agree with you. She's bleeding when you get home.
Yeah.
Something has gone awry. Just listen to her a little bit and don't.
And I'm gonna go ahead just based on you saying that. I'm gonna apologize to any listeners out there that love The Strangers because apparently I was doing a bad job of watching this movie, but it's not my fault. It was easy to tune out of and like be scrolling the IMDb trivia instead.
Right. But again, I rewound scenes that didn't make sense. I tried.
Okay.
I tried to figure it out, and there is
I
nothing to
thought
figure out. There's nothing to figure out. It doesn't make sense. And so that's where I'm annoyed with it because I'm like, I should not have to rewatch a scene 3 times to try to understand what you are trying to tell me. And
okay, because
it's
I'm
not
like
working.
I'm laughing at myself now because I just thought she was really upset that she broke the lamp. Like she dropped
Mm,
it and she went, "Oh
I don't think
man."
so. I think she's crying
Okay,
because she cut her
cut
hand while
herself.
breaking the lamp.
Okay,
But what were
okay.
you trying to do with the lamp? And how did you even get to the glass to break the lamp? Like I don't the way she grabs it, it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yes, it's very frustrating. And I don't like that he, immediately goes outside when she gets home. She's terrified. She's been bleeding. He's like, let me tie it with my tie. There's no bandages in this home. You're like, my probably beer spilled on tie is the
Yeah.
best thing to put on this right now. And then he goes outside to get his phone and he sees that the car has been jacked up and at least beaten. And he's like, you know what I should do? I should still dig in the
Yeah.
car.
My phone's probably in
My
there.
phone's
Like
probably in there. Like I can still get to it.
probably
Like,
just some hoodlums. Yeah.
are we serious right now? He was so frustrating. And I did want, like to your point, it is logical once they go and they decide to get in the car and try to escape. Like I totally agree with that. Fuck the wheels, ride until the wheels fall off, man. But he doesn't do that right then. And that's what I don't understand. Like call
Yeah.
her to come out here, get in the car and fucking haul ass, and they just don't do that.
Yeah. I also don't like the you saying that the attempted car escape. I don't like when the killers are just everywhere. It doesn't feel any different than, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees,
Yeah.
where they are walking, but they catch up to everyone that's sprinting away from them. In this,
Mhm.
the killers are always in the perfect place to like thwart their
Yes.
escape. So they decide now
And
is
then
the
they like
time.
supernaturally run away
Yeah.
too. You're like, they're just
Yeah.
people.
When
What?
he sneaks out to the woods to like try and shoot them, and there's one in the woods behind him, silent, and then when they go to drive away, it just so happens the killers were perfectly in the truck at that time, but we don't see
Yeah.
them sprinting and like, oh shit, we got to get to the truck.
Yeah.
Just it's a little goofy.
And you see them left alone in multiple scenes just long enough to get themselves into trouble. It's not so much like it doesn't help the plot, I don't think. It's more of them. It's unrealistic. If these people are everywhere, then they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And there's multiple times where they're left alone long enough for her to run in the woods and fall and hurt herself and them to like take advantage. But there's no reason for them to have waited to attack her. You know what I mean? Like just stuff like that there's no logical reason. And I keep having in my notes over and over again, this is so drawn out. She's such an idiot. He's such an idiot. Like all these frustrating moments. And I agree with you. One of the few things that he does that is smart is hunkering down in that room to have the shotgun. He shoots Mike, which I think is stupid for a number of reasons.
But is that gunshot not brutal? Like the
It
effects
is
in that and his
brutal.
after effects of his face like hanging off, that's really well done.
It's very well done. And I don't think it's impossible. I still just think it's not smart of him, right? To like have not waited to see this person in full view. He just shoots.
Yeah.
But you could attribute that, like if I want to do a little, mental gymnastics, you could attribute that to just trigger happy fear or whatever. But what I do think is dumb, no matter what, whether he knows that person, who that person is or not, is coming out of that corner to check on that person when you know that there are more people. Like, what are you doing? Why do you not just stay there in this position that is clearly advantageous for you to shoot at people walking by? Like it just seems so stupid to me.
Yeah, that's horror, right? Just spinning off of that, I do the kills that we do get in this, I think, are pretty good. I think that's a pretty good kill, and I
Yeah.
do like the last scene of this unmasking of the killers that we don't
Yeah.
get to see, but the characters, when they take the masks
Mm-hmm.
off, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we know they're gonna kill us now because
Yes.
we've seen their face. I like
That
that, the way they make
transition.
that
Yeah.
point. I like that they're sitting there holding hands and they look down at the ring, and it's done in just the right way. It's a little cheesy, but at
It
least she
is.
doesn't say fucking I do. I was waiting for that to come out of her
Right.
mouth, but like they just say I
Yeah.
love you, and then we get these brutal kind of like stabbings, and like I do
Well,
think that that's played really well
I
for
agree.
as
And
well as that can be.
they dress them up too. So it's like the ring is on the
Mm-hmm.
finger. They put her back in her little gown, nightgown thing that's all schmancy. They put his suit jacket back on, like they dress them up in this almost ceremonial way. And they give
Yeah.
them this almost wedding ceremony in a really ironic way. And it is actually a very weirdly romantic moment because they are trying to distract and protect one another. They're like, begging for each other's lives. And she's telling him like he's being stabbed. And she's telling him like, no, baby, look at me. Look at me. Like, don't look at this happening. Look at
Mm-hmm.
me. And vice versa. They're just looking at each other while they're being stabbed to death and trying to, profess their love and things like that. And that part is at least sweet and romantic and strong of them to try and do for each other. So I do think that's a strong moment in the end, but you had to go through some shit to get here.
Still a better love story than Twilight, right? Isn't that what everybody says? But I
Truly,
think I also like, I feel like I am critiquing the director writer pretty harshly, so even on the peripheral shot, it's like that's just bad framing. But
yeah,
I like how he cuts to the nature, like the sort of the quiet nature again, to show the isolation of there's
yeah,
this horrible thing happening in this house, nobody outside of
that
it
nobody
knows.
knows. Yeah,
And there's one other shot that I think is pretty gorgeous, which is when the car is lit on fire and Liv is walking
yes,
through the interior and it's
yeah,
just illuminated in the orange. I think that's a pretty cool shot sequence.
yeah. I agree. I also think it's funny that she says "I love you" and he says "I know," because
He doesn't say I love you back.
no, he says "I know," which
Wow, he's a Han Solo
he's
type.
a Han Solo type. Which listen, after the shit he's been through, she said no. He went out to get her cigarettes. He comes home and they get tortured for a couple hours. I'd be a little salty myself, but I have in my notes that he says, I know, because he knows they're still in a fight. He's like, listen, we're still in a fight. Like, I'm not
We'll
about
talk
to
about
tell you
this
I love
tomorrow.
you. Let's talk about this tomorrow.
I was gonna say, because when you talked about them putting them in the suit or like dressing them up,
Yeah.
and they obviously can see the ring, that made me think of, well, this is obviously playing to us, the viewer, knowing that this whole situation spun out of a fight about an engagement.
Yep.
But the killers don't know that. But that brings me to my question for you, which is I'm challenging you. What is your theory on the backstory from the killer's perspective? Do you think this is just random happenstance, or do you have any other theories about, like, yeah, they know who they are, or anything like that?
I think it's random. I do.
Okay.
But I do think that they know about the wedding thing because they found the ring box and they saw all the rose petals. So I think they just leaned in to fuck around because they're those kinds
So
of
they
people.
thought that she had said yes. And
I think they thought she said yes, or that,
Mhm.
they're at least it's about to happen, right? Like maybe he didn't get the chance, who knows? But I think that they saw that and took an opportunity to fuck around. But I definitely think it's random. And I think part of that is because Brian Brantino, like having read Helter Skelter, like those are random killings. There were multiple random killings. Yes, they're, like Charles Manson tried to assign some meaning to them later, but it was like jealousy and rage and manipulation of people. And there was no real point to it. And these people didn't do anything to them, So I just, I think it's random. I think some, like to quote The Dark Knight, it's like some people just want to watch the world burn. I think that's these guys. Yeah.
I think sometime I mentioned this earlier of when we saw the opening crime scene and how nowadays you try to predict a twist. At least I do. I don't know if you do when you watch a movie. You try to predict the twist, right? Because every movie's got to have a twist. And I feel like if I were rewatching The Strangers for the first time, I would think, oh, the good guys are going to win. That's the twist on that opening scene. Or I would think, oh, she said no to his engagement, so he's like hired these people to scare her into them surviving the situation. He gets to play hero, and then at the end they're married. Like, I thought that would be a cool modern twist on this. If they ever remake it, there you go, Brian Bertino in
I
20
did
years.
I did think that for a split second, actually weirdly early on. I thought he could be doing this to fuck with her. Yeah. And then it became clear like pretty quickly that he's not, but I was almost hoping that. I was almost hoping there was like a more interesting motive to this on his part. Like, who goes to get their girlfriend, non-fiance, whatever, cigarettes at 4 a.m. after she's declined your proposal because you just need some air? Like, nobody is that nice. And so I was very like, he's going to like pull some shit, or at least I hope he is. And I was a little disappointed when he didn't.
I wish watch movie, not even just this, but movies from, you know, older horror movies, mystery films, thrillers, those genres where you're looking for that constantly nowadays.
Yeah.
And when something plays out just with no hard left turns, and I'm watching an old film nowadays, it's like strange to be like, oh, a movie can just be straightforward. Like, yeah, the person you thought was evil is the evil one. I'm trying to think of an example. We watched a horror movie last year and it ended logically wrapped up, and I went, but there wasn't a twist. And I felt like unsatisfied.
But I want there to be a twist. Yeah. No, and I always try to figure out endings and things, and I'm usually very good at it in and out of horror movies. Like, I love to just figure stuff out. That's one of my, and I think it gets easier to do for anyone who watches a fuck ton of movies, right? Like, you pick up on patterns and tropes and characters and all the things, and so it's part of the entertainment. And so when they don't deliver that, you're a little bit like, really? That was it?
Yeah.
And so literally the last note in my notes is all caps. Really? That's it.
I wrote it down differently. I said, was there just a Liv Tyler scream quota for this film that we had to hit? Because between that and the dumbass thing where she finally gets caught before the daytime scene and they're dragging her unconscious down the hallway, and then we cut to black and she just goes, ah! Like, does another scream when she's unconscious apparently, and then we wake up and it's daytime. I was just like, did we have a quota to fill and we just realized she has a really good scream, so let's just jam them in there?
Somebody heard her scream on that first day of filming and they're like, that's it, that's what we're gonna fucking do over and over. I have no idea, because they didn't have a lot of purpose to the screams, you know. Was not.
And again, these killers have been walking around with murder boners the entire night, and they're somehow gonna fuck up the final moment of like confirm the kill.
Yeah,
it just seemed dumb. Really dumb.
I thought that was like a really bad cherry on top. I totally agree. I was like, well, that's fucking stupid. And I guess it's supposed to imply the existence or potential of a sequel, but they already do that with the line that says it'll be easier next time, which I think is a more mysterious and interesting way to end that if you want to, and I don't think you needed both. I think you needed to pick one, and I would personally cut the scream and
just have the bad guys win. That's how this should logically play out. If you're trying to deliver this, it's all random and this could happen to you and blah, blah, blah. I don't think we need this final scare / moment of hope of like, oh, actually she survived. Who needs that? What's the purpose of that?
What I want to know more about, what the Stranger sequel that I want, is how did these fucking people find each other? Where is the murderers support group that we don't get the invite to? You know what I mean? How do you find out your people? Because everybody finds their people and they're weird, and that's great. Go do you. Find your weirdness. Who finds their murder friends? How do you do this?
Janelle pointed out, and she was like, it's an interesting choice that it was one guy and 2 women in this group.
Yeah.
And that does feel kind of Manson family to me. Like, it does feel like kind of this patriarchal figure with like these followers. And I thought maybe that's what they were kind of like, how can we do this at the smallest scale possible? As opposed to having the 2 females or 2 males. I think in most horror, like Last House on the Left, I'm thinking of, and what's the other one? I Spit on Your Grave. I think in those both, there's like 3 male killers and 1 female, just who feels like a token. We have to have a bad girl in this too. So I thought that was a cool thing for them to do in this one. Flip it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's that much thought put into it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Fair.
I'm glad that's whatever. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was good. I just
I
don't get the vibes that was.
Can I point out one other thing where it's like, I don't think so. It's the same as I said at the beginning. Well, oh, these are homages to Horror House. Fucking why?
Yeah.
What's the thing? It's a thought. It is a thought, but I don't think it's that much
for effort. But no.
There was a reference in this, and Janelle saw it first, and I was shortly thereafter. But like, I think it's supposed to be an Evil Dead 2 reference, because in Evil Dead 2, there's a scene where Ash goes into the barn and there is just a chalk outline of a chainsaw on the wall. Like, a
Oh, the
chainsaw
axe
should be
outline.
here.
Yeah.
And it's like, and right after that, a Deadite runs in with that chainsaw to attack
Yeah.
him. That's how he ends up with the chainsaw arm.
Yeah.
But in this, they have the axe outline.
But it's after
So
the axe has shown
it's
up.
after the axe has already shown up. What the
Yeah.
fuck is the point of that? Like, okay, it's another
It's
homage,
not at all
but
scary in
logically
that
in the
way.
story,
Yeah.
it's dumb as hell to show us that. So
Do you
it's
know what
just
it made me
another-
think of?
Uh,
Julia Child's Kitchen. Because she fucking did that on the corkboard. She like outlined her pots
Oh.
and pans. And when it's so innocuous like that, and it's after the fact, you don't cut to horror movie, you cut to Julia Child, in my case.
But that's everything I've got on this. I mean, we
That is
finished
everything I have, and
under
then
an
some.
hour,
Like,
and that's yeah.
So, dear friend who will not be named, she won't love me calling her out, but I'm sorry that I shredded your movie you recommended.
It's fine.
I don't love it. Well, okay, let's get to the rating then. Let's get to the rating. What is fine for you? What would you give it?
I'd give it a 5. Like, I would just say, like, it is middle of the road for a film. There's going to be some people who will go as high as a 7 or maybe even an 8, but there's going to be other people who are like, this is a 3 or a 2. I think 5 is taking my personal preference of the movies. If I took my personal preference, it'd probably drop to like a 4.5 or a 4, honestly. But giving it a little bit of leeway for when it came out, and it tried some new ideas. It was innovative for when it premiered. But yeah, it's a slog. I can't see wanting to watch this more than once.
No, I never want to watch it again. And I won't particularly recommend it to people. I give it a 4.5, and I will not budge. It was not great.
And I want to point out that, like, I like some bad horror movies. I like a bunch of shitty Friday the 13th films and Nightmare on Elm Street.
You know, I'm trying to figure out your formula, because some of the ones you like, I really don't like. But then we agreed on this one. But the thing is,
I can like the worst. Let's take the worst Friday the 13th movie and say it's like a 3.5 or a 4. Yeah. I will still watch it because it's more fun. Like, there's a level where it's bad and it's still fun to watch. This is just, it's bleak, man. It's real bleak.
It's super bleak. I agree. All right. Well, we did it though. I'm very proud of us. We made it through. Thanks for joining, fam, and for sitting through that rage. If you did, come back next week for what is going to be way more fun. Our anniversary episode. Brrr, I don't know. I need a drum roll. I need fireworks. I need something. We're very excited. We got goodies. Coming. We're going to talk about all kinds of things that both Lemar and I want to reminisce on, but also that you all have suggested. So feel free to reach out to us on those, suggestions that you have. What else are we looking for from them, Lemar? Like, what do we want to hear between now and the next, celebration?
Well, I think by the time they hear this, we might have already recorded the 1-year anniversary, because we do tend to record quicker than we release. But I mean, still follow us on social and give us some engagement this week. We'll probably be posting some social stuff of, like, celebrating the anniversary, and feel free to just give us some hearts and some thumbs up and some extra shares and whatnot. But follow us at We Drink and We Watch Things on Instagram and TikTok. We got some reels and stuff on there for you. Also, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And email us anytime you want. We drink and we watch things pod at Gmail. If you have ideas or episodes you wish we would do, or things you disagree with, we love disagreements. That'll give us something to talk about. So
apparently the disagreements are well received. People like when we argue about movies. So give us more to argue about, people.
I should have pretended to fucking love The Strangers.
I know. We would have just fought, though. Like, that would have been, we would have been like, you know what? Do I want to do this pod anymore? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you guys for, sticking with us for all this. We will be back next week, like we said, with our anniversary episode. We got more to come for spooky season. But for now, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that was a pretty cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Like...